Hello everybody, welcome back, good morning. Let's have a look at some of these charts. Nice and early, decent computer. Well, I think it's a decent computer, that's up for debate. Let's get stuck in. So to be fair, we are still obviously above that 102, 101, which is good. And so long as we're above that area, we'll call it 101.5 or something like that. I don't know why I'm calling it like that. 101,500 dollars. So long as we're above there, things are okay. But I mean, you can see it yourself. A bit of a curled top, really. It looks a bit like a scythe. As probably at the moment we've got more red than green in this little area now. You could consider it accumulation. You could also consider it redistribution. You don't really know until it breaks either way. Resistance, support. You're going to break the resistance, push out. Yeah, great. Okay, lovely. You'll see a new all-time high. Break down from here. All right, I'll catch you around the 99s. And maybe a bit deeper into the 90s. 50 exponentials sitting down here, 94, 600. To be fair, there's as much chance of it going in either direction at this point. I know that's an unfortunate thing to say. However, it is the truth. Take ourselves to a 4-hourly. You can see yourself sort of dancing at the moment just below the 20, the 21 and the 10. So at this moment gives the impression that it's actually going to come down today. Maybe 102 and then maybe 101.5. So unfortunately, in a scenario like this, where moving averages are all blending together and the ranges are getting relatively tight, and we kind of have a bit of a rounded top kind of area, it might be the case that we come down actually and lose this area. Well, let's have a think about some other aspects of this crypto scenario, shall we? So we were talking before, weren't we, about how we were looking to get a bounce on the dominance chart, which is what we are getting. We are at resistance at the dominance chart, so you might get a rejection from here. So maybe altcoins start to move. Again, the dominance chart has not been the greatest thing anyone's ever charted these days. It's I mean, still gives toppy vibes, but Bitcoin just does not want to give up the game as far as being dominant is concerned. And we've seen it before. We had it over here when we were up in the 70s. We had it over here again when we were up in the 70s. Massive, massive alt season. And look, there was always a chance, and there still is a chance of an alt season around here. Bearish divergence, but the money flow index now is sinking down quite quickly. So maybe that's all we're going to get. It might be the case that is all we're going to get for now, which puts altcoins in a particularly dangerous situation because we don't want to see altcoins, or we don't want to see those most recent gains, whether you made some or not. I don't know. There has been some gains made. But a week or so, maybe that's it, and maybe it's short-lived. The resistance is where we are right now on the daily, but the weekly still looks like it could do a full recovery based on the standard Bollinger Band strategies that we always like to employ. Everything is about statistics, isn't it? More likely to remain above it while sitting above the 21 and the 20, and that's basically where we bounced from, with what looks like quite a convincing candle if we close like this or higher, to push even further up and make a new local high. So that's that. Now, we were worried about this, weren't we? Which was that the S&P is making its way gradually up towards 6,000. Well, there you go. I mean, we're already creeping back up to those levels. Are we going to continue up? Because this is where I'm getting scared as well. Yeah, there is fear in the market. Despite the fear and greed index saying greed, I'm fearful. Maybe that's because the fear and greed index is often a counter indicator. Are you greedy? Well, what do you need to be? Fearful when other people are greedy, and greedy when other people are fearful. Now, I'm fearful as we approach 6,000. I was fearful as we approached 5,600. Now, I'm just generally fearful in the markets, full stop, But look, Bollinger Bands will tell you that we've closed above this area. Whether we come down to retest it to see if we can hold it, we'll have to wait till Monday. you know, these markets are a bit tricky at the moment, aren't they? And we got all this Russia-Ukraine, we got all this other stuff all over the place. We got tariffs, this, you got whatever. Yeah, you know, it's a bit of an unpredictable scenario when it comes to world leaders. It's just very difficult to work out where it is that we want to go or where it is going to go. The only thing that seems to be following its projection is the Dixie. You know, we managed to nail the Dixie. Well, in all fairness, I did predict Bitcoin back up at $101,000, and we're still above that right now. But the Dixie, sort of breaking down towards this trend line, which is where we should find a bottom, I believe, and then start a reversal, which would then kick in a big bear market. So we're not there yet. We will be getting there soon. You know, I always use the analogy, don't I, of what it's like to trade Bitcoin, crypto, or any markets really, which is, it's like that machine you find at the arcades. I posted it on Telegram. It's the one where all the balls sort of float around, and you got to pick up the balls, chuck them down a hole. You got 60 seconds to do it, and by the time 60 seconds is over, that's your earnings, that's your money, that's your gains. You know, it's a bit like that. You know, crypto, all markets are like that. It's not about making sure that your top target is filled. It's about making sure that you've taken profit before the time is up, especially for altcoins, because no matter how good an altcoin chart looks, it's going to be influenced heavily by Bitcoin, which unfortunately is heavily, influenced by the S&P and stocks and just generally everything. Now, they're also correlated. It's just hard. Time will run out eventually this year, and you've got to get out. So I'm just letting you know that today, I've taken profit, not loads of it, but I've taken a good portion off the table from my trading account, not from the hodl accounts, just for safety purposes. XRP hasn't managed to get above the $2.50, which is where we wanted to see a weekly close. Now, if we do get a weekly close above there, then XRP and all his best friends will run. Maybe we'll see that in the coming weeks. But at the moment, we've got the RSI, we've got the volume, which is the money flow index, but we don't have the price closing at an acceptable level for continuation immediately. Look, I don't control these charts. I just interpret them, and they do change with every second that goes by. Now, there's a couple of things about it. You do have the pump signal here on the XRP. You are above a 20 moving average, so there is a chance that we do rally a little bit today. And if altcoins can rally, Bitcoin can stay static, and we might get another little pump on these markets. You know, we've still got a pump signal here on Ethereum as well. So the altcoins are showing signs of another move up, right? They really are. Okay, they are showing that. But remember what it is that I'm trying to say here. Just because altcoins, XRP and Ethereum, which are two really big ones there, have pump signals, and they do, and the dominance chart is at resistance, which it is. It doesn't mean that they will fall down. They will pump in the face of a Bitcoin pullback, because they would. Most likely they would, wouldn't they? Say, well, what about that pump signal? Well, what about that? Says, yeah, it did have a pump signal, but Bitcoin didn't allow for it. Well, why? Why? Well, because stocks didn't allow for it. But why? It's a chain of events. I call it the domino effect. And, your altcoin is nothing compared to the larger market that's within it. It's like you're building a house, right? Okay, so your house is good. Yeah, you've built it on clay. That's all right. You sure? It starts to wobble a little bit over time, but their house was made out of granite blocks, the steel infrastructure. What about all that? Yeah, it's true. It's a very strong house, but it was built on a dodgy floor. But it does. And then a year later, all falls apart. I used the best stuff to build that house, and it still fell down. Why? Because you built it on a dodgy floor. Ah. So these altcoins do have reinforced steel structures. They do have granite blocks. Whatever it takes to build a house. Obviously, I'm not into construction because I don't know if they do build houses out of granite blocks. But if they did, I imagine it'd be quite strong. But what I'm trying to point out is, pump signal. Yeah, good. across the board. Bitcoin dominance, yeah, at resistance on a daily. That's right. But what's the foundations? What is the foundations? Bit like a bit of a clay scenario, I'd say. The tether dominance chart's still actually downtrending with a target down here at 3.8. That's fine. The 4 hourly, yes, creeping up, rounded bottom as well, isn't it? Really similar to Bitcoin's rounded top. So there is evidence, I would say, that it does have a little move up. I'd say there is more likely chance of it moving up and then getting rejected, creating a lower high, to then create a lower low. So maybe what we see is a pullback, that gets picked up across the board for crypto and stuff like that. If there was a gun to my head to say, what do you think is going to happen? I still believe, based on everything I see, obviously, not just because I believe it, that we're going to make higher highs generally in crypto over the coming months. But in the short term, we might be looking for a pullback first, get picked up, then continuation. The pullback could take you to any real level, to be honest with you. It could. It could come to any level. But based on the dominance chart here, the tether dominance chart, it's a bearish chart now on a weekly. And I still think the destination is down here, around 3.8 area. Maybe even goes lower than that. We could even lose that and go to 2.6. But in the short term, it does look like we are going to get a rejection here, and maybe we come down to the lower 90s for Bitcoin, which is obviously a fair drop there, really, 10%. And with that, you would expect all altcoins to do at least 10% or more. Right, I'll leave it there. Hopefully that has some kind of value for you. But for me, like I say, it's been a nice move. I longed from just below $80,000, 10x on that one, so that's done pretty well. And some chips off the table today, just so I can enjoy the weekend. Really, there's nothing worse than keeping your eyes on a heavily stacked trading account that's basically not performing. But let's rewind and recognise where we've been. We've got support down here in April. We've rallied all the way up here in May. If you measure wick to wick, for Bitcoin alone, it's 40%, and your average altcoin has outperformed that. So we've done pretty well, I'd say. It's done pretty well, especially when most people were saying, the cycle's over, this is a bear market, blah, 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 blah. We've not made a new all-time high here. We've made what is last week very close to a candle body all-time high. And unless we can make a brand new one this week, which again is in the next 48 hours, we're probably coming down to the lower 90s again. Mid to low 90s. Right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.